That's the future. And there's no reason that those same kinds of projects can't take root in other cities and towns. So last night I announced the launch of 3 more institutes, and I'm calling on Congress to help us set up 15 institutes, global centers of high-tech jobs and advanced manufacturing around the country. Second thing we need to do is make our tax code more competitive. Right now, companies get all kinds of tax breaks for moving jobs and profits overseas, but companies that stay here get hit with one of the highest tax rates in the world. That doesn't make any sense. So what I'm proposing is that we reform our tax code, stop rewarding businesses that ship jobs overseas, reward companies that are creating jobs right here in the United States of America. That makes sense. Number 3, if you're a manufacturing town, especially one that's taken a hit, that's seen a company close up shop or a plant shut down, I want to partner with local leaders to help you attract new investment. Because once that investment starts coming in, things can start turning around. And that means infrastructure gets modernized and research facilities get built. And suddenly a community that was knocked down is getting back up. And they're attracting new manufacturers who want to come and expand and hire. So I want us to focus on, if a place like when Asheville lost the Volvo plant, we got to come in here real quick and help them figure out, all right, what is it that we need to attract a new employer? Number 4, we've got to help our workers get the training to compete for the industries of tomorrow. You know, at least a couple of the guys that I had a chance to meet as we were taking the tour told me they were out of work for a year, in one case 2 years, in part because we kept unemployment insurance in place so folks could get back on their feet. They were able to go back to school and now are gainfully employed. No job in America should go unfilled because somebody doesn't have the right skills to get that job. Nobody. So if there's a job open, we should train those folks right away so that they can do the job. And that's why I'm proposing a national goal of training 2 million Americans with skills that will lead directly to a job. And we know this works. You know, after Linamar came to town, they started working with AB Tech, one of the community colleges here in Asheville. And AB Tech and Linamar worked together to do something that is really smart. Rather than have kids just not, or in some cases not kids, you know, older workers, show up and they're taking a bunch of classes, but they don't know how this is directly going to lead to a job. What you do is you customize the class to train people so they can come and work at the plant, and they're getting experience that's directly applicable to what's being done here at the job. That's good for the community. It's good for Linamar because they're getting workers who they know can do the job. It's good for the folks who are going to the community college because they know if they work hard and they do well in the class, there's a job waiting for them. It's good for the economy as a whole. So those are 4 common sense steps that we can take right now to strengthen manufacturing in America. Now, there's no magic bullet here. It's just some common sense stuff. People still have to work hard. Companies like Linamar still have to make good products, but the point is that if we can just do a few things, then over time what happens is we start rebuilding our manufacturing base in a way that strengthens our economy as a whole. Now, I'm doing what I can just through administrative action, but I need Congress to help. I need Congress to do their part. I need Congress to do their part. I need Congress to take up these initiatives because we've come too far and we've worked too hard to turn back now. And you think about all that this city and all of you have been through over the last few years. think about folks like Jeff Brower. Now, Jeff was in the trucking industry for over a decade. 2 years ago, he got laid off. Lost his job as a diesel mechanic. That's a tough thing to go through, even though Jeff's a pretty tough guy. But he bounced back. He decided it was time for him to change careers. He decided it was time to get some new skills. He went to AB Tech, took a class in automated machining. A few months ago, Jeff got his diploma. He graduated on a Wednesday, interviewed at this plant on Thursday. By Friday, he was working as a machine operator. Where's Jeff? Where's Jeff? There he is, right here. Now, obviously, Jeff's pretty good at interviews because, you know, he just got hired like that. I hope he can give me some advice. But here's the thing. The reason Jeff did all that, obviously, a lot of it was to support himself and his family, but it wasn't just to punch a clock at a new plant or pick up a paycheck from a new company. It was to make sure he could have a better future for his family and for his community and his country. You know, Jeff said, getting my foot in the door has opened my eyes to bigger horizons, and I want to keep on going. I want to keep on going. So that's our story. That's the American story. We don't give up. We get up. We innovate. We adapt. We learn new skills. We keep going. And I just want everybody here to know at this plant, but everybody in Asheville, everybody in North Carolina, and everybody all across the country, I want you to know, as long as you're out here fighting every day to better your lives and to better the lives of your children, then I'll be back in Washington fighting for you. I will be back there fighting for you. Because there's nothing we can't do and no possibilities we can't reach when we're working together. We just have to work together. We got to stop with some of the politics that we see in Washington sometimes that's focused on who's up and who's down. And let's just focus on the same kind of common sense and cooperation that we're seeing at this plant and we see all across the country. All right? So thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.
That was President Obama speaking to auto workers in Asheville, North Carolina. Kathy, you and I were both listening very intently to those remarks.
Boys were chatting.
Unlike some people. But this is the first of 3 stops. We know he's going to Decatur, Georgia tomorrow, and then on Friday he's going to Chicago. In Decatur, he's expected to maybe talk about education. Unclear what's going to happen in Chicago. He's visiting an academy there, but maybe some talk about gun violence. These 3 stops being a mirror of the themes of the State of the Union.
And carrying on what he just did at the end of that speech there in Asheville, which was basically appealing to the people that he's speaking to over the heads of Congress. And he's done that in a policy sense. Listen, if Congress can't get certain things done, I'm looking at executive orders. He's looking at things that he can do on climate change, for example. If they can't pass cap and trade, if we're not going to have a carbon tax, then I'm going to look at what I can do in terms of regulation in the White House. And in a sense, that's the message that he's taking to North Carolina, onto Georgia, and then to Chicago, is rallying the American public to support his proposals, the 3 different bits there of his State of the Union address.
And proposals, Mark, that conveniently poll test very well with the American public, and that Congress hasn't really done any work in terms of passing legislation or even drawing up legislation. I want to play some sound from Paul Ryan this morning, who is taking issue with the fact that the president is not in Washington and instead, quote unquote, on the campaign trail. Let us take a listen.
He's taking to the road for the next few days in basically what I would call campaign mode. He seems to always stay in a campaign mode where he treats people of the other party as the enemy, not as partners. If he really wanted to get things done and govern, he would come here and work with us instead of campaigning all around the country.
Okay, now, what is if you were President Obama, what would be the wisdom of staying in Washington at this point?
Well, first of all, let's just say that every president pretty much goes on the road after their State of the Union address. And so, I mean, the notion that, you know, it would be unusual or campaigny for a president to do them. If you remember, right after President Bush was reelected, he immediately went on the road to sell his Social Security plan. Like,
to go over the head.
To go over the head of Americans.
Same
Right to the
Right, to see if
I mean,
they
it's literally the day after
You say the State of the Union is strong, and then you hit the road.
Right.
Right. And now, look, I mean, sort of the other side of that is the administration seems to be in a very confident mode. The president himself seems to be in a very confident mode, again, as he should be. He was just reelected. I mean, his numbers are good. The congressional numbers are very, very bad. But I mean, I do think that you have, or you hear some early warnings of overreach. I mean, I think when you look at sort of the Bush example, I mean, again, Social Security was a good example of him laying out a very ambitious second-term agenda. And now, look, there's not a lot of proof of that.
But I guess I don't find, you know, I know everybody's painting what Obama's calling for as ambitious. He's actually, they're small bore. I mean, look, they would be big deals if they all got done, right? And it would look ambitious if all of them got done. But there's some small. See, Bush went for one big thing, and then when he didn't get it, it was overreach. It was done. Obama has put together a checklist. He might get 35% of what he put out.
Well,
which wouldn't be,
in fact,
which in baseball. That's not bad.
That's not a bad batting average. But at this point in Washington, you have got to sort of overreach to get anything done, whether it's the actual number you're asking.
Well, that's what they've concluded. I don't, you know, that is apparently what both sides believe now. That is the wrong way to govern. This is why we're in these impasses. This is a horrible thing. The idea that both sides have to go over the top on their whatever their initial offers on both sides.
Let's keep in mind, though,
is a stupid way to go.
Tax reform is something that has bipartisan support. Immigration reform is something that Republicans have supported in the past. Same with climate change. I mean, these are not highly partisan policy pieces. These are ones that have traditional Republican support.
But when you get to the details, they're pretty highly partisan. I mean, if you look at the details, for example, on climate change, there are big differences between what Republicans want to do and what conservationists want to do in terms of trying to address.
Yeah, but they are almost. I mean, when we look at climate change, I grant you, but immigration reform at this juncture, they're basically about a technicality over enforcement, right? When you can say the border.
Well, the House and Senate have a difference on path to citizenship.
Fine, but it's not. It's not within the realm of reason to suggest that it can be worked out. On gun control, to your point, this is not an ambitious package. He didn't mention the assault weapons ban last night deliberately, because he knows that the most likely scenario is that you get a background check and/or a federal traffic law. So he is tempering some of his legislative reach in some areas while shooting for the moon and some others. With respect to what Paul Ryan said, though, I think from my understanding, this White House will say, look, we tried direct negotiations in Washington with John Boehner twice, and it blew up each time. It's time that we try something new.
Meanwhile, John Boehner does not think the president has the guts to get it done, which smacks, I'll say, of irony. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there, and the Swami is leaving the set. Chuck Todd.
You and your nicknames.
This is my effort at bipartisanship. Like George W. Bush had nicknames to the press.
You want to be.
nicknames. Well, I have nicknames, and I don't think the Swami is a particularly bad one.
Okay, but is it? You want to be? Is that a little Chris Berman's name? And inside of ESPN, I was here. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
This is what happens with having too many titles, Chuck.
You just man of too many hats. Maybe that's the title.
You said that on
self-referencing. Okay, Chuck, thank you as always for your time and expertise. Coming up, they're amazing mugs. From Time Magazine cover to Poland Spring, Marco Rubio is the GOP's man of the moment. But while Republicans trumpet the messenger and not much is being done about the message, we will weigh saviors versus substance next on Now.